I think they're policy problems and legal problems, and we need to solve them with policy and legal tools. The technology will protect us as much as it doesn't. We just have to choose to deploy it.
Hello. I really enjoyed your speaking. I also am a bit of a techie, and I always get a kick out of warrantless wiretapping.
My people.
In defense of the national security and the government, do you think a bit of privacy could be a necessary sacrifice in order to preserve our American way of life?
Well, I think yes, I think that there may be choices that we make after, that we made a lot of, well, we didn't make, choices were made for us after September 11th very quickly that were off of this trade-off. And, I think we can be safe and free. I think that we can have privacy and still give government the tools it needs to protect us. Certainly, we don't need wholesale removal of privacy in order to deal with some of these issues. We can do things that are more surgical. So yes, but I think these trade-offs have to be made publicly. We need to have a discussion about it, and American people have to think about what balance they want to make. Now, some trade-offs I don't think are right. I think that the Constitution sets a floor for how much you can give away of your privacy, just like it sets a floor for free speech and all sorts of other things that we hold dear. But above that floor, I think there are serious policy discussions that we need to make about these kinds of things. There's one going on about cybersecurity right now, and whether we're going to have the right of anonymous speech, or whether that just makes us too unsafe, something that for people who care about free speech, you should know that the right to remain anonymous is as old as our country, right? Publius wrote the Federalist Papers under a pseudonym for good reason. So this discussion is coming up, and we're going to have a debate about how much privacy people are going to be able to have versus the needs of security. And I think we should have that debate. My fundamental concern is we didn't after September 11th. There were unilateral executive decisions about how much privacy that all of us deserve that I don't agree with, and I don't agree with them substantively, and I definitely don't agree with how they came about.
Is there any specific advice you can give us on how we can keep our personal privacy private over the internet and electronic communications?
Sure. EFF, if you go to our website, there are tons of white papers and do's and don'ts and things that you can do. Certainly, I mentioned Tor, which is a way to do web surfing without revealing your IP address, which is a way that you can be found, which is the way that the RIAA is suing all the people engaged with file sharing, is tracking back for their IP addresses. So I know you're a student. Sometimes students care about these things. Although they have stopped the suits, so that's good. There are things that you can do using encryption technologies, which are pretty readily available, free across the internet, to try to protect your private communications. For people who use, again, being a student, I'll make an assumption, people use Facebook, and Facebook has a set of privacy settings in them. They're really hard to find, but there's a great blog post called 10 Things You Need to Know About Facebook Privacy that will help you figure out how to control who sees various information that you might want to place on Facebook. There are similar things for other social networking tools. So there are tools available to help protect people. Cookie management is another thing. There are lots of things that you can do. I would say that right now all of them are way too hard, way too buried, and way too complicated for ordinary people to use, and that's the policy decisions that are being made rather than the technical issues.
Your present litigation strategy sounds straightforward and good. I'm just wondering what will happen if that fails. Do you have a fallback plan B, a litigation strategy?
Well, right now we have two cases going. We have one against the phone companies and one directly against the government and government entities. I don't have a plan C. I view the second case we brought as kind of turning to plan B. Maybe one will develop. I'm open to ideas. It kind of depends on what happens in the first one. The secrecy issue is the first thing we have to get over. I'm very comforted by this Ninth Circuit decision that we're going to get over it, at least in the Ninth Circuit. Now, there may end up being the Supreme Court wading into this because the Fourth Circuit ruled one way and the Ninth Circuit's ruled another. But we're going to continue to push. While we're a nonpartisan organization, we were very happy to see some of the political changes that happened both in Congress and in the presidency, and we're hopeful that that would mean a change. But it may be that I need your help. I need you people who care about this to actually talk to your members of Congress. Sherrod Davis is one of them, and others, and start putting the pressure on, political pressure on it. It may be that the litigation is going to need help from the people in other spheres pushing. We'll see, but I think that it may be that we can't do this in just the one branch of government. We're going to need help from the other two, and for that we're going to need all your help.
I applaud your efforts.
Thank you.
But at the same time, I reflect back on my military duty, which was at the NSA, long enough ago that we didn't have the internet and all that stuff. But I will say that in the effort of espionage on your enemies or your potential enemies, reading the other guy's mail is vital. And I'd like you to comment on the possibility that as Obama has gone from campaigner to president, where he has learned what we can do with this information, that he may now put our national security at a higher level.
Well, I think there's certainly an argument to be made there. I mean, I think the NSA, again, I'm pro-tech. I think the NSA has amazing tools. They do incredible stuff, and it's really important. But the founding principle of the National Security Agency is that they don't use that power on Americans. They don't. That was their principle. You talk to anybody, I suspect when you were there as well, that was the cardinal principle that they were all trained on. And if we are going to decide as a country to do that, I think we have to have a public discussion. The ability to create and build all of these amazing tools was based on an article of good faith, and that article of good faith is this wouldn't be turned on ordinary Americans. And if it has been, then I think they need to make the case not just to Obama, but to the rest of us about why we're going to hand over the Fourth Amendment, because that's what we're doing. So, I mean, I believe in process, and I believe in rule of law. If we decide as a country that we don't want that Fourth Amendment anymore, then shouldn't we have a constitutional amendment process to do that? Isn't all of our security, I mean, this is what makes this different than the torture and the other situations. This is about us. I mean, I care very much about torture and what they're doing to those kind of select few people, whether they're Americans or from around the world. But this is about us and our daily communications. And I don't see the authority or any checks and balances in place, any congressional oversight, even whether there's significant administration oversight. The FISA Amendments Act that was passed just last year grossly limits even what the secret FISA court learns about what's happening with these wiretaps. I just think that it's not, frankly, with all due respect, it's not President Obama's decision to get rid of our constitutional rights. And I think we should all say that. I think that's fair. If the case can be made that this powerful stuff is actually keeping us safer, I think we need to see a bit of the case. Obviously, there are sources and methods. There are things that we can't know. I understand that, but I think it should be possible to have a reasoned debate about this without compromising national security. And I firmly reject the idea that we all need to be kept in the dark about what's happening to all of our communications on the grounds that some of us might be terrorists.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland Forum, we've been listening to Cindy Cohn, Legal Director for the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Thank you, Ms. Cohn. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.